I just realized as I push the button that I have this stupid orange hat on, but I'm gonna go with it. Feels right.
It's not even hunting season.
It's not even hunting season, but I do wear it once in a while. Walking along the road at dusk or early morning if it's really cold, just to keep my head warm. It's convenient, but I think it kind of goes nicely with the blue background, so I'm gonna ride with it for now. Another Matcha morning.
Although it's now.
Me and you.
What time is it? It's almost 4 o'clock.
No.
Okay.
It's early morning.
Yeah.
The crickets are creaking and all that kind of stuff. It is still officially our Matcha morning conversation. We actually did one this morning and we were, we weren't on the ball enough to publish that one, so we're making another one. And just the idea of each morning is that we just ramble. We don't plan anything. We just shoot the shit, and we either publish it if it's half worth people hearing it, or else we just toss it in the pile and publish one the next day. Kind of an exercise in a way, a little creative project. And one of the things that we felt that was important was not to orchestrate anything, was not to compose too much, but to just be ourselves as a practice run of being ourselves, because we realized that up until this whole thing happened, each of us had varieties of moments in our lives where we knew we were not fully being ourselves. And if nothing else, this has really woken us up to being more authentic and to appreciate things more as well. There's many sides to it, but one of them for sure was to be more authentic. And we found that although some may feel that we're more outspoken than many, especially on social media and stuff, we do hold back a lot, and a lot of the times it is important to hold back on things. Like, no one needs everything said.
I'm going to disagree with what you just said, because
if I'm walking down the road, I don't want to say, hey, I feel like picking my nose. You know, there's certain things. That's a really mundane, stupid example, but you know, in that note, no one needs to know everything. You know what I mean? My butthole's itchy, that kind of thing. Like, it's just not necessary. So on that note, there are situations where you just don't need to tell the whole world everything. But when you're living your life being held back, that's what I'm referring to. What are you referring to? We may be on different channels.
Yeah.
So explain yours.
No, I thought we were going to talk about something else. I thought we were going to talk about... I just disagreed with a comment that you made.
Okay, so what's our unplanned plan now?
Our unplanned plan was we were going to talk about some ideas that we came up with in terms of our own... everyone's rethinking their lives right now. I think that's really part of what's going on right now. And that includes us in the process of that.
Well, we're doing major reevaluation. Sometimes it's really fun, sometimes it's not so fun. Because there's the tearing down of the old, which is not always fun. And it's nerve-wracking and scary because it's unknown. And then there's the building up of the new, which can be extremely fun, like building a tree fort or anything else like that, where you're going off you're allowing yourself to go on a slightly more creative tangent of rethinking, which can be very, very fun. And actually, we've found just the mental exercise of entertaining ideas, whether or not they ever were to come across into fruition or not, we found it's just a very good, uplifting mental exercise before taking to the next step. So what we were talking about in our situation, because we were planning on moving anyways, and we were planning to move closer to the city, we cut our time in half. So instead of roughly 3.5 to 4 hours, it's somewhere under 1.5 to 2 hours. So that had been our plan for the last 2 years at least.
At least
and,
2.
Along the way, many things have happened, as you guys know. Some of them. But many things have happened, and each thing slightly shifts perspective on plans that were previously made, reevaluation and introspection. So at this stage, we have thought, well, we have many options. Why burn bridges? So one option is still the plan of moving, 1.5 to 2 hours from Toronto, so that we can have people come up to us and not have to drive into the city as much. But then we thought, well, how do we know that if we go through all that trouble and relocate and compromise so that our clients can come to us, which is really important, how do we know that the debt we take on for a mortgage of a new place and other toys, vehicles and things, is worth the compromise and also the risk factor of what if we take on that bigger mortgage and we move closer to the city with in mind that flow of business is going to pay for those expenses. What if that doesn't happen? And like what happened here, not enough people came to keep us busy enough to pay for all of our expenses, so I had to start traveling into the city, which in turn had us think about moving a little bit closer. And then we thought, what if we just lowered our cost of living? And here we are once again, the old pattern that is almost invisible. Mm-hmm. We start gradually working towards more expenses. Oh, and if we got something like this, and if we did that, and once again we have a high overhead monthly, which is okay if I'm willing to work nonstop and the people are willing to come. But the time that we've had out here with plenty of, not time sitting around doing nothing, but more option to do things we want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Number one, we found doing the things we want to do during stressful times is extremely healing. So we found a extremely therapeutic side to things, of doing what comes from your heart, what just presents itself in the moment, and then the idea of putting it on the table and saying, well, should I go with this? Today is my day of going with this golden thread of an idea, and just letting it, nurturing it, and letting it evolve into something, and either it fizzles out and stops there, or continues on, or you start a new project. But that's for any artist, they know that's a very enjoyable state of mind to be in. So we thought, well, we have had a section of our property surveyed, and it's going through the process now of being a separate piece that we have the option of building on. And we've always been scared away from the idea of building a place because of all the headaches you hear about. But now we're kind of thinking, well, while we're selling our place, and of course once this goes through, we can start, if we want, we could start building little bits. We have a metal barn, for those of you who've been out there. We have a 30-foot by 60-foot metal barn that we could have renovated
to an artist studio.
Into an artist studio. So it's a place that we can stay, we can work, I can tattoo, I can create whatever project I want to, whatever size. If we did it, we're thinking of having it off-grid, which has its issues with power tools, but we just have a generator that I'd use for when I'm doing power tool stuff. It's not like constant ongoing work. But something off-grid, so we have one of our biggest annoyances all our lives, multi-tiered levels, is hydro. The hydro meters are an issue.
I don't like those smart meters.
The smart meters, the cost, everything about it we have not enjoyed. So although solar is not the answer to everything, we've learned that for sure. It all has its own pitfalls and its learning curve and everything. But people that we have known, and now we know quite a few, who have done the solar thing, when the power goes out, their power doesn't go out. They are not subject to all the little whims of hydro. So there's a lot to be said for that. The privacy, although there's still electrical hooked up, and if you're having solar hooked up this way, you could have, if the solar guy knows what he's doing or she's doing, they can hook things up in ways where there's less electrical interference going through your house, like in your bedroom, for instance.
It'd be nice to have a bedroom that doesn't have electrical interference.
And
So
I've read where you can have a switch that switches off the whole bedroom or the whole area of the house, so at nighttime you have nothing active.
But really, what is it in the bedroom that we have plugged in? A lamp for nightlight.
Yeah.
And if we decide to plug our phones in, which we're plugging them outside of the bedroom. That's the bathroom, though.
Well,
That's not the
close to
bedroom. No, but you could have your bathroom has your electrical hookup because you need certain things plugged in. But around the bed, really, aside from some kind of a light fixture, really, the less is more.
Yeah.
Because you want to have that deep, restful, restorative sleep. And definitely electrical interferes with that.
Yeah. So anyways, that's where we're at. We have many options, but we can group them into two. One of them is moving closer to the city somehow.
I don't think so.
And the other option is to move down the road to another part of our property and build inside of the barn. Our initial ones would be, well, we've got the surveying still going on. We have a well to dig, the solar, everything hooked up, batteries and panels and things, and electrical inside the building. We have our heating to figure out, which we would do wood heat / propane. We'd probably have a propane backup of some kind, so that if we went away, we could just turn on the propane heat source and just keep the place at a minimum heat. We would like to, which we've always wanted to do, and that's where it would happen, is we build a stack wall wood-fired sauna. We would definitely have built in to the bathroom in the house a sealed, relatively sealed shower stall that we can have steam in, because we've had steam in our shower stall here and we love it. Couldn't do without it now. So we have our outside sauna, our indoor steam. We have our wood fireplaces, our wood stoves. Maybe a cooking wood stove is possible. I know that if you're cooking with a wood stove, summertime it can be an issue because of the heat produced. So then you just switch to your barbecue and you work outside. Not a big deal. No. But that's how we're thinking. Based on our experiences, I still would go with the wood. We just want something a little more convenient and more controllable where the heat goes and things. We would be moving into an area that's not up on top of the hill. I mean, we're still on a big hill, but we'd be a little more secluded in the forest with plenty of light coming in, but plenty of wind breaking value down there. But we've owned that land and we've walked through those trails for 4.5 years now, so we feel pretty connected to it. I guess the con would be that we're still far from people, and this is where the catch is, if I can lower my cost of living enough that I can eke out a living with a few people that come up here, what's the quality of life? That's what I'm thinking now, is the quality of life rushing back and forth, stressing myself out, driving into the city and out of the city and everything in between, and watching the kilometers go up on the truck and wondering how long I keep it before I sell it and, how much I owe for this and that? Or do I move into a reality where ideally I have no mortgage, no payments on the truck, nothing at all, and money comes in, rather than going instantly out to pay a bill, the money can sit there or go into further building of the house or whatever, but it would leave us with a lot of time on our hands to be very creative and to live a full life, a real life. And this is what's been coming up, is authenticity. Are we really living our lives? And Raven and I, compared to some people, are doing it more so, but there's always increments of, can we do better? Are the things that are not so expensive, maybe the better things. And this whole CV thing, and I'm not going to give it the full name because I don't want to give it any power any more than it deserves, and it doesn't deserve anything. It's a crock of shit, in my opinion. But the value of it is unintentional value is that it has shaken people up enough, as if the whole Trump being elected didn't shake people up enough. Now CV hopefully has woken people up enough that people actually start making changes to their lives. But we're not here to tell other people what they need to do. We're sharing what we're doing.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, we took a lot of risks beforehand, and we found pretty well little to no one wanted to do anything similar and didn't take things seriously because we're just wacko artists, I guess. But now maybe more people will be taking us seriously, that it actually pays off to be a little bit outside of the city, to be living in an environment closer to nature.
Yeah.
The amount of friends, clients that have contacted me over this time period asking if they could come up to walk the trails, it's amazing how when you're confined into a space like that with unknowns and fears floating around all the time, how quickly the need to walk on a trail in nature and feel one with your environment goes up. Now, if you were to think, and this is what we did, if you were to think, well, what if I could afford 20 acres or 5 acres or 60 acres or whatever acreage? Well, you can afford it out this far, that's for sure.
Unless you're at Bark Lake where they
Well,
want 250,000 for a lot.
Unless you want to fit into the cottagers world, then you
Yeah.
can pay out the
lot
whatever,
of money
wazoo.
too.
But if you don't want a piece on a lake, and you're close to a lake for a quick drive or a bicycle ride, you can do it, and you can have your costs so low. I mean, you can buy a house out here for 200,000, but if you want something more to your liking, you have to go with various different options. But we've always, going back to the building part, we've always steered away from building because of the unknown costs. But now that we have less opportunity because of all what's going on, our financial situation, like many, is not quite the same. So we have to be a little more careful with what we choose to do and what we choose to spend our money on. So we just thought, well, we've got this piece of land that we always thought would just be a little cottage area to come back to once in a while. And now we're actually thinking, well, why do we need to still move closer to the city? Why do we need all these things? The money that we spend doing that, if we get the business, we'll pay for those costs. But do we really want to, at almost 60 years old,
Yeah. 61 for
spend
me.
all of our time and energy on keeping up with the Joneses, so
Yeah.
to speak? It's not exactly, but it's keeping up with a previously conceived idea of what was abundance or whatever, and having access to creative processes, which is really important. But what we found out here is it takes about a 4-year integration period to fit in, and I mean fit in, with neighbors and get to know how people are out here, and them get to know how you are. People are pretty awesome out here, I must say. I can't speak about other areas. But now that we've been here for over 4 years, it would almost be a waste of all that effort getting integrated, because now we know the people at every store. We know, they know us. We know people that we can ask questions about, who do I call about having a well dug, or, things like this. So it's a great environment, and especially now with the whole cannabis laws that have opened up that everyone's aware of. A company bought a large piece of land very close to us, and it has an old warehouse on it, an old factory.
An old foundry.
And they're building, based on a model that's already operating in Smith Falls. It's worked very well. They're building a large cannabis grow operation. They're building a large cannabis products-based spa, a brewery where, from what I heard, the sugar that's needed in the beer production, fermenting, process is going to come from the cannabis roots. So it won't be psychoactive, but it keeps things more natural in that respect.
A sustainable model.
It's very, very sustainable. And then they have also the hotel spa side of it. So they're promising anywhere from 400 to 800 jobs. So that's just the start. With what's happened, number one, people aren't going to be traveling as far. A lot of people are going to be looking for closer areas to holiday in. So this area is going to go up as far as land value, investment opportunity, job opportunity, because there's going to be 800 jobs right there. Now these are all maybes, nothing's happened yet, but this is just an example of this area. The way things have changed, we'll find out as it unfolds because of what's happened. How is that going to shift what goes on and what we can predict? Well, we can't really predict a lot, but there are some little suggestions of way things may go. And we're hoping to take advantage of that. And it's definitely shifted us to considering the option of not moving closer and to building a little place inside of an already existing barn with a metal roof.
Yeah.
And
that's primarily an artist studio.
Yeah.
But has some live-in features so that we can also be there.
Yep.
And we're liking that idea more and more because I like the idea of not carrying any more debt. I think most people can relate to that. It's just too much. It's too much of a burden. It's just
tired of the chains.
Yeah, it is.
Tired of the chains.
The yoke.
And one of the things that I got out of this last while in seclusion was the lack of stress. I mean, there was plenty of stress, but when you can't do anything about it, ideally you just have to not worry about it because there's nothing you can do, and worrying doesn't help. So in that not worrying, but working hard, but on projects that I didn't have the time to work on when I was tattooing, was how liberating that was to just get up and choose when I do what and why. And we both just thought, you know what, maybe it's time that we'll do what probably many have never done, is retire without money. What a cool idea. Everyone's like, well, once I save up enough, I can retire.
Yeah, but
well,
we were never in that position.
We're never. So now we're thinking, well, maybe we can retire even though we don't have money.
Yeah.
Maybe just a shift.
Yeah.
You know, we have this beautiful piece of forest with an already existing metal barn, a structure with a cement floor. It's high and dry. We've got a little clearing there and the access to the trails of the forest. All we need is our well, our heating, our electrical, you know, the basics. We don't need a super big place. We can always build onto it over time. But for now, I think for the next few years at least, before making any big choices like putting a down payment on a house, I think it's better to lay low and just weather whatever's happening until the waters have calmed down enough to be able to predict what choices to make or to stay where we are, you know, and build more onto it. But for now, just a small artist studio, you know, to lay low and not have to, like, half of all this stuff is the stress of what do I do next and what is the me that used to be and so on. But if you let go of that, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, if a whole bunch of people had 20-acre lots lined along a road, for example, I'm just making up a visual here. It's maybe a slightly narrow lot, so you kind of had a neighborhood, but they were, you know, a house at the front and, you know, and your barn at the back or whatever, or your garage or your art studio or whatever it is that you do, or you can have your house at the back for more seclusion. But you have 20-acre kind of rectangular lots and a town square sort of thing, a little community area where people come in as restaurants and stuff like that. And you had just a whole bunch of these little village type of things like in Europe. You know, ideally, it's nice if they're on a water feature, like on a lake or something, but you know, or on a hill. But why do we have to have such heavily condensed metropolitan areas? I think if a good handful of people moved out to towns and villages, then that opens things up more for the people in the city,
Yeah.
and it's not so over.
That may happen anyway because with the big
Powered.
rollout of 5G,
Oh,
and it's not that people are claiming that the 5G causes the coronavirus, but for sure that level of frequency is going to suppress the immune system.
yep.
And people are going to find themselves perhaps getting more ill, sick most of the time, getting whatever, whether it's flus or colds or whatever. It's going to be a level of immunosuppression that I certainly am not interested in marinating in.
Don't want that reality.
No, I don't. So that's another big reason why we want to stay where we are.
We have perfectly clean water,
Yeah.
limitless.
Yeah.
We have as clean as the air that you can get nowadays.
No fluoride, no chlorine, no shit like that.
No
It's just,
sirens everywhere. We wake up to the sound of birds tweeting.
yeah.
Like, we have things here that are phenomenal, and they don't cost a lot. So yeah, someone might say, well, it's a bit isolated for me, but you know, if more people did something like this and you had areas
Well, we'll see.
that
what-
were remote enough and cheap enough and clean enough that if people were respectful enough, they could have a community, so they have more of the people they want around them,
Yeah.
you know, for interacting at the coffee shop or whatever.
Well, even this house is like a perfect community living kind of house.
Mhm.
There's tons of space, and there's plenty. Like the bedrooms are huge. Like it would make, like if we were able to find a group of people who wanted to do their own project here, it could be pretty amazing. It's just too much house for us.
Yeah.
It's just way too much.
I just don't share the enthusiasm about running a big place. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I guess I've left this place emotionally. You know, we gave it a really good try. It's a wonderful building for someone's project, but I don't want to weigh myself down once again compensating for like a Band-Aid solution or whatever. So if we can sell the house quickly, I would be more voting for that and just get stuff happening over there. If not, well then maybe that might have to be an in-between stage. Who knows? Like there's so many things up in the air, and I think that's a great, healthy way to work right now, is to just allow a ton of different opportunities to float. You know, I do it myself naturally. Maybe it's an artist thing, I don't know, but even when I make posts, and I'll post something and people will jump on and go, oh no, that's a right-wing source, or that's a whatever source, or you know, you can't trust this, or that's not a doctor of this, or it's a doctor of that, or you know, like the little nitty-gritties, if they're correct at all, or Snopes said this isn't whatever. Well, just as an example, when I'm posting something, I'm not posting to say this is the be-all and end-all, this is the answer. I post things, and this is how my life unfolds. I put something on the table and I look at it and I consider it, and it's like that, you know, it's got some merit, and I put it, you know, that little sparkly rock next to this little sparkly rock, and this crystal here, and this little dried butterfly wing, and whatever. But it doesn't mean I'm bought into the one thing and everything else becomes obsolete. I weigh things out and I put things next to each other, and I mull over things, and I let my heart warm up to what's being presented, the energy of the equation. And that's how I suggest people consider moving into the next phase of their lives, is not being so black and white. And I have reason to believe that a lot of people are in that extreme opposites, black and white, it's right or wrong, because that's how they respond to my posts. And it's like this fervent need to be right and to chastise and slap someone on the wrist and go, "Oh, get back into your place. You're out of order," and whatever. I don't get it myself, but I try to be compassionate and understand where people are coming from. But I can only guess that people just don't understand how my mind works. I like to look at lots of options, and if I'm left and I see that the only people publishing something that makes sense is from the right, well, I'm going to listen to the right, and then I'm going to say, well, that's over time. If I keep getting information that I relate to that's coming from the right and I'm left, well, then I start going, well, maybe there is no left and right. The other option is to say, well, maybe I'm right and I'm not left anymore. But that's not what happened with me. It was just like, I've gotten to know a lot of people who identify in various levels of right and left. And I don't judge people. I sit with things and people make comments and I stay silent or not according to the situation. But people evolve over time, like rocks in a tumbler. And sometimes one moment a friend will have a really strong response to something, and then 6 months later they've unraveled a bit more and they've softened a bit more and they've got a different view, and now we see eye to eye and we've got something to talk about. Otherwise it's like, just maybe let that person stew in it a bit longer.
And sometimes you get happy surprises where you just go,
Yeah.
wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. Like opportunity is everywhere. And
Yeah.
I think the lack of opportunity is a state of mind.
Yeah.
We don't see the opportunity, whereas right now, and I've seen a lot of people now posting, like, bigger names even, saying that we actually have got a lot of phenomenal opportunity coming from all of this, aside from who did it, what happened, where it came from, all those things. Regardless, the unintentional side of things, the positive fallout,
the opportunities and the gift in the experience. And that also comes to mind, the 11-11 exercises that we are encouraging people to do. And I hope that you do, and that you have a great focus on gratitude, all the things that you're grateful for in your life, in this life right now, as it is, accepting what is, and being grateful and finding all the little things, like even the fact that you have clean air to breathe and seeing another day and seeing beauty and color and interacting with your animals, your pets, with, you're not seeing people much anymore, but, even if it's a smile from a distance, all of these things. I mean, when I see the sun, my heart just totally expands and uplifts. So yeah, I encourage everyone with the 11-11, so it's 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. for the next few days, and indefinitely if you choose to, just to take a pause in your day for a few minutes and just reflect on all the things that you're grateful for. Accept what is in your life, and we move forward from there. Those are the energies we want to manifest and materialize in this world. And I think we should wrap it up. We're at 33 minutes plus right now.
Yes, because we are conscious creators.
Yes. And hopefully everyone has a wonderful and blessed day. And, let us know what you think. Comments, it's always good to have.
Yeah.
And we do appreciate the people who have made comments about, we're not even sure what it is that we're doing. We just felt like we needed to reach out and...
We just want to just start off with like the simple act of speaking our truth with no purpose other than just doing that, and then just seeing where it goes from there. Is it a melting pot? Is there an energy coming from that center of the cyclone kind of truth speaking? At first, does it seem like a little bit loud or offensive, and then does it gradually start to become more comfortable? Like, we don't know where it's going, but it is kind of a neat project, and we were also thinking that maybe if it evolved at all, we might start we'll have to figure out the whole technology thing where we can have like a little square in the corner of someone that we call up and talk to,
Yeah, it'd be
so we
good.
can have conversations with different people.
Conversations, and also even to do a live thing. I've been wanting to do that, but I just think our Wi-Fi being what it is, at least
Oh yeah.
we don't have 5G out here.
But like, imagine, like, we could do things like we could, if he's into it, we could call up Michael Gallo, our solar guy, for example, and we could ask him all kinds of questions about hooking up a real basic solar setup for a small house. You know, so people can actually see, like, what is the reality of that.
I have
kind
a
of thing.
question. Like, if you have a smart meter, is there any way that you can have it removed? Is that, or how does it, I guess, what, are you stuck with
don't
it?
know.
Like, even if you,
Oh, I think you can take it down, but you have to take down the whole, there was an expense that they would have paid to. I don't know how it works.
yeah, it's crazy.
But
If
they would
anybody
want,
knows,
they
let
probably
us
want
know.
something from you,
Yeah,
and
It's-
they wouldn't give it up easily.
yeah. Well, I look forward to having a place that doesn't have a smart meter. So
Well, I'm just looking forward to many things, but I'm looking forward to the idea of living in a living space that has less of these questionable energies and interferences for my health. Now, granted, I'm dependent on my phone. We have certain things that we're not willing to fully give up, but we are looking into the idea of having everything hardwired in, and whatever we can do to function as reasonably as we can, but kind of laying low, like minimizing those disruptive energies and frequencies or whatever.
we're techno-tardy enough.
But it's an experiment doing not the kind of extravagant thing that someone who has tons of money can do, which is great that someone does it so that we can see that it can be done, but not something that costs $1 million to hook up. But we're thinking of something that's very affordable and completely not as a project, but basically being thrown into it by life. So what a more honest, realistic way to start a project, and share whatever we come up with you guys.
Let's wrap her up there, dude. We've already gone 5 minutes past.
5 minutes past. Oh
No,
my gosh.
let's move it.
Okay.
So take care, everyone.
So yeah,
We'll-
please comment, give us some feedback, tell us what topics, if you think of something you want us to talk about, discuss, ideas you have of your own. Just kind of, we're just at the beginning stage. We're just, whatever thoughts come into our mind that are around us. What do you think the summer is going to be like? I'm curious what other people think. For the earlier part of this whole thing, I think everyone just shut up and didn't want to get caught in the crossfire or anything. But now it seems that more people are starting to sort of soften up and relax and voice their thoughts. And I'm not inviting people to speak anything that they don't want to, controversial topics. We don't need that. It's just on the positive or on the concern level. What are your fears and your positive thoughts on what could be unfolding for the next 6 months? Do you think there's an effect that's going to last for years? Do you think it's